Good day, my grade 12 learners. Welcome to today's mathematical literacy lesson. My name is Bernard Donko. This lesson is brought to you by the Northern Cape Department of Education in collaboration with Pagama Research and Development. So, as part of a series of our various revisions that we have been having, today we want to look at finance and more specifically cost and selling price as well as break-even analysis. Cost and selling price as well as break-even analysis. So let's get into it. At the end of the lesson, you have to be able to determine the cost of producing an item or the cost of rendering a service with an understanding of the difference between the two. You should be able to decide on appropriate selling price for an item or a service based on the expected percentage profit. The next thing you have to know is to be able to make a comparison between income and expenditure, profit or loss values. Those are absolutely vital. So, my first question to you for us to discuss is, what are equations and how are they used? Every business, any business can use a formula or equations, tables and graphs to determine the profit or loss. An equation is a mathematical expression that shows the relationship between two items. It contains letters and variables. When you talk of variable, it's a symbol or a letter that is used to describe the relationship between the represented values in the equation. Variables do not have a fixed, they do not have a fixed value. Now we have the equal sign. When you see the equal sign, it is telling you how the variables and numbers are related to each other. Then we have these other words called dependent variable and independent variable. Dependent variables are those variables that rely on other variables. All these things will make sense when we start doing some work. The independent variables are those ones which are on their own. They do not rely on any values. They are just on their own. We call them independent. So my first question to you is, as we try to refresh our memories, because these are things we have done it already, we did some of them even in grade 11. If the cost price for making 24 donuts is 60 Rand, what is the cost price for making one donut? How much did we spend? We spent 60 Rand to make how many? 24. So how do you think we are going to do this one? Can we work together quickly? Take your calculator. We are working. So we are going to say 60 Rand divided by 24. What do you get? 60 divided by 24. I wish that we press together, we do together, because in Mathlet, practice makes perfect. So how much? We are going to have spent 2 Rand 50. We take the money which we are spending, divide by how many items we spent the money on. That's how we are going to find the price. If you increase the cost price by 10%, this time we are increasing the price to cover for labor. What will be the cost price for the 24 donuts? So what do we do then? We can either decide to work on the 2 Rand 50 or we work on the 60 Rand, because the 60 Rand is already for the 60 donuts. So we can take here 60 Rand plus 10% of 60 Rand. Can we work together quickly? So let's press together. We have 60 plus open bracket 10 over 100 times 60. Close the bracket. It means that now we are going to pay 66 Rand. Well done. But the examiner says we must look for all the 24. So this is how we are going to get the price for 24. Or you can actually work for the 2 Rand 50, where you find 10% of 2 Rand 50, you add to the 2 Rand 50. Once you get the answer, you multiply by 24 items. That will still give you 66 Rand. Let's look at question 3. Calculate the cost price for one donut. So now we know we are spending 66 Rand. So what do? We are going to divide it by 24. can we do together? 66 divided by 24 donuts. Now it is costing 2 rand 75. It's no longer 2 rand 50 because the price has gone up. Well done for working with me here. So now let's look at some of the terms that we need to look at. If you look at all our lessons, we are busy giving you terminologies and stuff because we know they are going to ask you in the examination. So the first one is cost price. When we say cost price, what are we talking about? It is the amount of money that we spend on buying or making the product. That's what we call cost price. It also serves as the base. Therefore, it equates to 100%. Your cost price is 100%. That is the money which you used to produce the item. So please don't forget the 100% because along the way, it will come back later. The running and production costs also help to determine the cost price. Okay, how about selling price? Since we know cost price now. It is the amount of money a customer is charged to buy a product. So if this is a bottle of water and then you sell it at any price and I decide to buy it, that becomes the selling price. How about profit or loss? Profit or loss is the relationship between the cost price and the selling price. So remember our previous lesson, we said a business will make a profit if the income is bigger than the expense. A business makes a loss if the expenses is rather bigger than the income. Then come to this key point, which we keep asking you in the examination. Break-even point. It is the point where the income is equal to the expense. What is the key word here? Equal. Equal. When we ask you to define this one, don't say it's the point where the income meets or the income or the line crosses. No, that's not what we are looking for. We are looking for the word equal. It's the point where the income equals the expenses. Thank you very much. All right, let's go to the next point. Cost and selling price as well as break-even analysis were covered already in grade 11. So in grade 12, because we are doing revisions now, the main focus is to have a clarification of the cost and selling price, profit as well as relevant percentage calculation. That's what we are doing here. We are not starting all over from the scratch because we hope by this time you would have covered most of the topics on your own. The break-even analysis as well as the income and expenditure graphs will give us a much better understanding. So what we are doing here, we are trying to go over. We are trying to revise. We are trying to make sure you understand much better because we know we are going to be asking you in the examination. So look at some of the things that I've presented to you today. When we talk of cost price, it is the cost price of a product for manufacturing. Don't forget, the money that we need for manufacturing becomes our cost price. Remember I told you before that it becomes 100%. All right. Then we have profit or markup. So for us to have what we call profit of markup, it is the selling price there, meaning we add the cost price plus the profit. Assuming you took 100 rand to make the item and you want 20 rand as your profit. So how much will you sell the item? Yes. Yes, you're going to sell it for 120 because it's your 100% plus the profit of 20 rand. When you put together, you are going to get 120%. Thank you very much. How about selling price? Remember, we've spoken about it already. That's how much we wish to sell the item for. So the cost price of the product, the competitor's price, meaning basically if you're producing the item, please remember, you are not the only one in the whole community. There are other people who are also producing. So you cannot be expecting, assuming your other competitors sell it for 50 rand, but you produce and sell it for 10 rand. You're going to make a lot of loss. You are going to take forever. And you cannot also just all of a sudden decide to sell for 95 rand. No, you can't do that. If learners know that a hat or a beanie costs 100 rand, and then you come, you put your own nice logo there, you want to sell it, but you are selling for 250. It looks nice, but remember, you are competing with other people. So we're not going to get a lot of customers. All right. The cost price of a sausage roll, let's take for example now, is 12 Rand. And we want to make a profit of 13 Rand. So what should we do? We are going to add the 12 Rand and the 13 Rand so that we end up getting 25 Rand. I hope you understand what I'm saying. I'm trying to determine what you call the selling price. The item is 12 Rand. That's how much I spent to make it. And I want to make a profit of 13 Rand. So I add the 13 Rand to my 12 Rand which I used. Remember again, I told you the 12 Rand is 100%. It is what? 100%. So whatever I'm bringing in will make it jump, make it go up. So I'm selling the item for 25 Rand. All right. Let's get some few tips and hints while we are working here. Sometimes in examination, most of you learners, you make a lot of terrible mistakes. That's the whole idea of helping you here today. There's what you call percentage profit and what you call markup. Those are different ways of calculating. So let's start. When we talk of percentage profit or percentage markup, then we are going to use the formula selling price minus cost price over cost price. In other examinations, we just say new minus old divided by old times 100. That should be fine. We'll just write new amount minus old amount divided by old amount. Multiply everything by 100. That will give you the percentage profit. Add a given percentage profit to the cost price to determine what you call the selling price. Like I said to you already, we made the item spending 12 Rand. We want to make a profit of 13 Rand. So we are going to sell it for 25 Rand. Look at what I've done here. There is the 12 Rand, but now I'm not talking of the amount. I am actually talking of how much percent I want to add. So it becomes 12 Rand plus 66.75% of 12 Rand. I put everything together. It's going to give me 20 Rand, meaning I added extra 8 Rand. That's how I got this 8 Rand there. So 8 Rand plus 12 Rand will give 20 Rand. Let's look at reverse percentage calculations. Remember now I'm giving you the tips, what you must do when you get into the examination center. So if the selling price is 30 Rand and the profit markup is 60%, what is the cost price? So this time we are going back. We are not looking for the selling price. We know it. We know the markup that was there. So what was the cost price? Then what you're going to do, we know the selling price is 30 Rand. So the selling price is equal to the cost price plus the profit. So 100, which is the original, the money that we spent for making the item, plus the 60% which we spent, will end up giving us 160, meaning the 30 Rand which we sold the item actually makes up 160%. So what do? We just divide the 30 Rand by 160%. Or you can just say 160 over 100. You will get 1.6, and then you say 30 Rand divided by 1.6. That will give you 18 Rand 75. So this is what I was talking about, that some of you learners, you confuse things. You confuse a whole lot of points here. Let's look at a certain situation here. What are some of the common mistakes that we make? Most of you will just go, because you've seen 60%, you just write 60 over 100 times 30. Then you get the amount. Then you go and subtract. Once you do that, you have made a complete error. We don't give you any marks. This is how the problem comes and how you're supposed to fix it. Look, we have the cost price, 60%. This is what you usually do. You learners, you will say 60% of 30 Rand, you get 18 Rand. Then what do? You say 18 Rand, I take it away from the 30 Rand, so it means that I have got 12 Rand. But if you test, are you going to get 18 Rand 75? So let's test. You said 12 Rand, ne? That's your answer. So remember we said the 30 Rand is 160%. So 12 Rand times the 160%, which I've done it as 1.6. Now it only gives you 19 Rand 20. So this is the mistake. This is the error that you made in the question paper. For such questions, when you are reversing, you don't just take the 60% and then you calculate and subtract. No. You don't do that. When you do it, you're working for Mahala. You're getting nothing. This is how you're supposed to do it. You take that 18 Rand 75, you multiply it by 1.6. Can you see now we are having our 30 Rand? Well done. So if you had followed the first step where you just multiply and subtract, you're not going to get any mark. That's the whole purpose of doing this kind of revision lessons. Take time, look at it, ask questions. Let the teacher pause the video. Ma'am, I don't understand. Say, I don't understand. Can you please re-explain, redo it? That is the job of the teacher. Let the teacher feel that you are engaged, you are willing to learn, you are willing to participate. When you do that, I promise you, you are going to do very, very, very well. All right. So I have done some questions already for you because we will be doing our activities. The selling price of a stove is 2,999 Rand. The profit on this is going to be 1,200. So my first question to you is calculate the cost price. Let's do that. We'll come to 1.2. So the cost price is going to be the selling price minus the profit. What is the selling price? 2,999 minus the profit is going to be 1,200. When we subtract the two, we are going to get 1,799. Can we actually do it together so that we are sure? So we have 2,999 minus 1,200. There we are, 1,799. Question 2 says we must calculate the percentage profit. So percentage profit, we know it is what? The profit divided by cost price multiplied by 100. That's why we see here that our profit is 1,200 divided by 1,799, the cost price, multiply everything by 100. Or, remember what I was telling you in the previous slide. I said new minus old, divide by old, multiply everything by 100. So the new price is 2,999 minus the old price of 1,799. Divide by the old price of 1,799, multiply everything by 100, and you're going to get 66.7%. Let's look at example number 2. When selling a bookstore makes a profit of 30%. Profit of 30%. If the selling price of the book is 250 Rand, what is the cost price of the book? Remember, the selling price is made up of the cost price plus the profit or the markup. So the cost price, remember I told you is 100%. The profit is what? 30%. So it means 250 is made up of 130%. So what is the cost price then? We're going to take 130 divided by 100, that's 1.3. So we are now going to say 250 divided by 1.3, and that should give us 192 Rand 31 cent. Remember, don't go and just subtract 30%. Like you don't say 30 over 100 times 250. No, when you do that, you have made an error. That's what I already rectified. I already explained to you in the previous slide. So first, the 130% converted to become 1.3. Then from there, you'll be saying 250 divided by 1.3. You are going to get 192 and 31 cents. How about now we go to some form of exam type questions. We have got question number 1. Malebu buys key rings for 5 Rand each, and then she sells them for 9 Rand. Please don't forget. She buys them for 5 Rand, sell it for 9 Rand. He also buys mugs for 9 Rand and then sells it for 15 Rand. So my first question to you is, determine which item has the highest percentage profit. So can you see here? We start with the percentage profit of the key ring, meaning it's the profit divided by cost price. Do you see how I got 4 Rand, learners? How did I get 4 Rand? I said 9 Rand minus 5 Rand. That's how I got 4. And then the cost price is already 5 Rand. That's why I've put here 5 Rand. Times everything by 100, which means that the key ring, the percentage profit is going to be 80%. How about the next one for the coffee mug? We buy it for 9 Rand and we sell it for 15 rand. So it means our profit is what? 6 rand. How do I get 6 rand? We take 9 rand from 15 rand. We are left with 6 rand. Divided by 9, which is the cost price. Multiplied by 100. We know that for the mug, the percentage profit is 66%. Look at what the examiner was asking you. Which item has the highest percentage profit? So which one? Yes, learners? This one. Which is what? The key ring. Thank you for that. Now, we have got question 1.2. Malibu's income for the items that were sold is given in this table below. So Malibu's friend, who is called Jeff, is saying, no, you know what? You sold more key rings than the coffee mugs. So if that's the case, as a grade 12 learner, please help me here. Let's verify. Let's see if what Jeff is saying is true. These are the values that Malibu sold on each day. So I'm giving you 3 minutes. Let us do the calculations and then come back to discuss together. After 3 minutes, we come back and then we discuss together, my learners. Welcome learners. So how should we do this one? Any other idea? Anybody? Yes, the learners there in the front. Anyone can try? Nah, don't feel shy. Practice makes perfect. We are learning together here. This is how I wanted you to do it. Let's start with the key ring. We take the 150, the 200, the 180, the 240, and then the 220. We add all of them. So take your calculator, press before we get to the answer. We have 150 plus 200 plus 180 plus 240 plus 220. How many are we going to get? Yes, tell me, my learners. You got what? 990. Let's go again. 150 plus 200 plus 180 plus 240 plus 220. That will give us 990. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Good. Then let's do the one for the coffee mug. This time I want you to add on your own and tell me what you're going to get. Yes, let's go together. So the coffee mugs, we have what? Let's do it together. 300 plus 270 plus 180 plus 225 plus 285. All in all, we are going to get 1,260. Remember, there was a claim that they sold more key ring than the coffee mug. Is it true? It's not true. So Jeff's statement is incorrect. It is invalid. It is not true because we actually sold more mugs. Here are some few things that you need to take note of. The difference between percentage profit and profit margin. Hey, learners, this one is a problem for most of you. Percentage profit and profit margin. I remember I was teaching some few learners and they were saying, no, Marcel, the formula that you are giving is not correct. Oh, only to find that this learner is confusing profit margin with percentage profit. Those are two different things. So look at the formulas that I've given to you here. Percentage profit is equal to profit over cost price. That's the one that we call new minus old divided by old times 100. That is called percentage profit. If you talk of profit margin, then it is the profit over the income. It's no longer new minus old over old. It's the profit over the income times 100. So if that is the case, then I want you to help us here. Let's use this information to help us. Verify showing all calculations which item has the biggest profit margin. Because we know how many items we already sold, isn't it? So we have the formula that I've given to you. Can you try it quickly? You can ask say or ma'am to go back and look at the values so that we can put them together. Yes, 3 minutes and then we come back quickly, my learners. Welcome, learners. So this is how you're supposed to look at it. Remember, for the key rings, we make a profit of 4 rand on each one. How many did we sell? We sold 990, which means we are going to make a profit of 3,960. Let's go to the key ring. The profit on each one, we're having it there. By 990, we are going to make 8,910. So let's look at the key ring percentage profit. We have our 3,960, which is our profit. For selling it, remember we sold it for 9 rand. So the income is what? 8,910. When we press, what are we going to get? Oh, we got 44.4%. The key ring. That's how much profit margin we have. All right. Let's look at the mark. Remember we made a profit of 6 rand on each one of them. So I've done this portion for you. I want you to fill in the others. You have the 6 rand times 1,260 items that we sold. It means that we made a profit of 7,560. The coffee mugs, what is the total income? Because we sold each one for 15 rand. So 15 rand times 1,260, we made a total income of 18,900. So can you see the profit that profit margin I've got? I want you to substitute. I want you to put the values there before I reveal to you which approach we use there. Let's go. Work it out until you get the 40%. Good. So you take that 7,560, we divide it by 18,900, multiply by 100. That will give you 40%. So in that case, which one gave a better profit margin? We have the key ring. Thank you so much. Now, Brenda wants to make a profit of 150% on a bun. The price of one bun to make it is 80 cents. So you are supposed to calculate the selling price in rand on one bun. I've given you a clue. Follow the procedure of how to add a given percentage profit to the cost price to determine the selling price. So here you have got 3 minutes. Learners, let's work together quickly. We want to find out the selling price. Brenda wants to make 150%. After 3 minutes, we come back, we discuss. Remember, you have to work. You press together so that even if you make mistakes, after watching the video, you get to check. So remember the clue that I'm giving to you here. Follow the same procedure. So we have 80 cents, that's 0.80 plus 150% of the 80 cents. What are we going to get? We are having 80 cents plus 120. All in all, it means that Brenda needs to sell the item at 2 rand. If you bought it at 80 cents and you sell it at 2 rand, your profit is going to be 150%. Okay, enough of cost price, selling price. Now let's talk about break-even analysis. Break-even analysis. Most of the time in examination, we ask you, either we ask you to draw the graph or we ask you to interpret the graph. So let's prepare ourselves. Let's refresh our memories once again and think of how do they ask the questions. So break-even is the point where the income equals to the expenses. Remember, I told you already. We are not talking of the point where it says the point where the income and expenses cross or they meet or they intersect. Those are not the words you must use in the examination. You must say it is the point where the income is equal to the expenses. At that point, the business is neither making a profit nor a profit. Meaning, if you borrowed 2,000 to start the business, and then you have managed to make 2,000, you have broken even. Basically, what it means is that you have managed to raise the money which you started with. You have given it back to wherever you borrowed from. You don't have any money. Your income equals your expense. It is that point of intersection of the cost and income graph where the two cross. That's the point we call break-even point. So I have put a graph here for you to see. Look closely. You see the blue line and the orange line, they cross at 10. But before they cross, if you sell any item there, you make a loss. What I'm trying to say to you is that if you don't sell more than 10 items, you make a loss, meaning you're not going to make any profit. The money that you started with, you can't even raise it. But if you sell more than 10 items, that's why you see this is the point where we call area for the profit and then down here is the area of the loss. But look closely. If you look at the blue line, you can see that it is cutting at a certain interval. It's cutting at a certain line, and that line is 50. How do I get to know? I'm going to teach you the trick, the few things that you must do so that you know what you call the interval that was used for drawing the graph. I'm saying 50, but I will show you just now. Look at something. You see here is 500. Look at the lines. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So from 0 to 500, there are small intervals, small lines. How do you get to know how much is the value? You take that first value, like in this case 500, you divide it by 5 lines. It means that each line represents 100. Look at it, I've given to you here. I'm just highlighting it. You divide the first value by the number of lines. Don't include the 0. After the 0, you count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. To that line where you get the first value, and you realize that, oh, there are 5. So 500 divided by 5, that means each value is 100 rand. Now you know. So try to practice that even in the examination. Then the next thing that you have to do is, the same procedure can be followed even for the horizontal part. Can you see here from 0 to 5, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It means that we're going to say 5 divided by 5. It means each value is 1. Thank you, learners. Right. Let's then, if that's the case, Fred is making wooden toys. The graph alongside shows his income and expenses. Use the graph to answer the questions that follow. So, can you see I've given you 2 lines there? By the way, how do you know which line is the income? How do you know which one is expenses? In case you didn't see this legend. The one that starts from the 0, 0 is the income. How do I know? Because if you never sell, you never get any money. So whenever you see that line starting from the corner, that's 0, 0, that's your income line. Then the other line is the expenses. How much is Fred's fixed expense? So we are interpreting the graphs now. Then it means that the fixed is 250. How do you know it's 250? Remember what I was teaching you already? You must count. Don't count the 0. From the 0, you have the first line, second line, third line, fourth line. This is the 5th line, that thick one. So you take that amount that is written there, you divide it by the number of lines that you counted. So we have 500 divided by 5, that is 100. But can you see the dot is between 2 and 3, halfway, that's 250. That's how I got the 250. All right, 1.2, how many toys should Fred sell to earn 800? So this time, Fred is looking to sell, looking for 800. Can you see this is 1,000 rand? So the next line is 900, the next line is 800. So we are following 800 until we touch here. Then we move down. Do you see that amount there? You should sell 20 toys. That's how you read it. So you look for your line, the amount that you have been given, 800. You move until you touch. It says, how many toys must Fred sell? So selling. When you sell, you get income. That's why I followed on the income line. All right, let's look at the next one. How much does Fred sell one toy for? We don't know the price, so let's figure it out. How much does Fred sell one toy for? Anyone? We know the selling price, isn't it? Look at here. Can you see there's 1,000 rand? If you move on 1,000 rand there, where the line is actually crossing, you can decide. But let's use other values. Remember we said Fred is able to get 800 for selling 20 items. There's the 820 items when you were following that line in our previous slide. So now we have 800, we divide by 20, or you can take 1,000, you divide by 25. Basically, what I'm teaching you here is that you can look at any point where you can be able to read the value down. You will get the correct answer. So it means here he has to sell around the 20 items, each one for 40 rand. When you sell for 40 rand, then you are going to get your 800. Okay? 1.4. Will Fred make a profit or loss if he sells 7? So we are somewhere here. This is 10, 9, 8, 7. When you sell 7, we are in this block here. Will you make a loss or a profit? Yes, learners? No, he's going to make a loss. How do we get to know? He did not manage to break even. He didn't manage to cross the break-even point. So he will make a loss. Then 1.5. How much will it cost Fred to make 30 toys? This time we want to make 30 toys. Let's look for our 30. How much will it cost? So you follow and then you go onto your left and read the amount that is there. Remember, each amount is 100. So this 500, the 600, the next one is what? 700. You see how you get to interpret the graphs? It is not very difficult. Just be patient and look at what I'm doing. Whenever you get to the exam center and you see such questions, you are going to score. You are going to be fine. How much will Fred earn if he sells 40 toys? So now we are selling how many toys? 40. So let's figure it out. How should we do it? 40. We follow the line until we touch. Can you see here is 1,500? But this line crossed at the next one after the 1,500. So each line is 100. When you add 100 to 1,500, it's going to be 1,600. I trust that you are catching up there. 1.7. How much profit will Fred make if he sells 50 toys? Remember, profit, to get profit is what? Income minus expense. So this is our 50. So our income for 50 is this one. Can you see it? What is the amount? It's 2,000. What is our expense? For the 50 is 1,000. So let's work. What are we going to do? Profit, income minus expense. So we say 2,000 minus 1,000, meaning the answer is 1,000. What is the 1,000 for? It is the profit that Fred will make for selling all the 50 toys. Then my next question to you is, how many toys does Fred need to sell to break even? Where do the lines cross? Toys, not money. Here. So come here, read down. Tell me the amount, the value that is there. How many toys? Good. 10. All right. Let's look for another question. Mrs. Jones bought a knitting machine for 5,600 Rand to make jerseys. It will cost her 60 Rand, including the wool and the electricity, to make one long sleeve jersey. Now, after making the jersey, a school buys them from Mrs. Jones and they buy it at 95 Rand. So, my first question to you is, in this table, there are some values that are missing. You can see them, A, B, and C. Find the values, A, B, and C. What are the values? Let's go. This one, we are going to do it, and then we come back just after 5 minutes and we discuss together. Welcome, my learners. All right, so let's look at the first one. We are looking for the value of A. There are two ways of doing it. The first one is where we take the 9,500, the income net, and then we divide it by 95 because we sold it for 95. So the income divided by the selling price will give us 100 items. If you are very brave, if you are very adventurous and you want to try with the expenses, no problem. You can take that 11,600, you minus the 5,600 which we spent for the machine, we divide it by 60 Rand which we spend on one jersey. It will still give you 100. You see that is not difficult. So go with whichever is easier for you. How about B? Here we are at B. We sold 180 items. We don't know how much money. So what should we do? You just take 180 items, multiply by how much you sell each item. That will give you 17,100. Then let's take the last one. Now is the cost. We have made 200 items. So how much did it cost us? So what you do is your fixed cost plus variable cost times the number of items. Fixed cost plus variable cost times number of items. My fixed cost is what? 5,600 plus variable cost of 200 Rand times number of items. That will give me 17,600. Where's my fixed cost? There it is. Where's my variable cost? There. I made that 200 and I spent 60 Rand on each item. So all in all, 7,600. All right, let's go to question number 2. We are still on Mrs. Jones. 2.2. The formula to determine the income is income equals 95 rand times number of jerseys. You must write down the formula to determine the cost. The one that I was just saying now. Fixed cost plus variable cost times number of items. So this is how you must write it. You write the fixed cost. You must write the actual amount of the fixed cost. In this case, it's what? 5,600. Plus the variable cost of 60 rand times the number of items that we are making. In this case, number of jerseys. When you write like this, usually we give you 2 marks or 3 marks. All right. I have drawn one of the lines for you. Which line is this one? Anyone? Yes, that line. The line there at the left. It is the income. Remember I told you. The income line is the one that starts from 0, 0. On the graph, the line shows Mrs. Jones' income for selling all 200 long sleeve jerseys. Draw another line graph on the same grade representing the cost of making 200 long sleeve jerseys. So you ask ma'am, you ask the school, they must print you this page. You must draw the graph. So I'm giving you 5 minutes. You must be able to draw the line nicely, and then we come together. After 5 minutes, we get back. All right, welcome my learners. Look at something here. You should have this table so that you get to know what is your starting point. I want to teach you some few tricks so that you draw a line that is always straight. Can you see in the table, most of the values are there. So the first dot for the cost, we are going to have 0 and 5,600. Then we choose any other value. I'm going to choose this one, 180 and 16,400. So you plot the 0 and 5,600, maybe somewhere there. And then you go back. Can you see 180 is 16,400? So we go to 180, 60, 70, 80. And then we plot, what's the amount again? 16,400. So we're looking for 16,400. There is 600, 800, that is 20,000, so this 18,000. So we are going to have 16,400. It's somewhere there. Now, we've managed to have 2 points. Then what you do, you take a ruler and then you join the 2 points like that. You join the 2 points first. When you are done, you go to the table, you see wherever there's a dot, you make the same dot on the same line. You make the same dot on the same line. You make the same dot on the same line. You are done. Your line is straight. You are going to get full marks. You see, it's quite easy. So this is how it's supposed to be. You plot the first dot. You plot the next one or the last dot. Join it with a ruler. Then you come back and plot all the other points which are there. Always your graph is going to be straight all the time. And every time we are going to give you full marks. When you are done, you label it. This one is the cost. This one is the income. If there was no title, you are supposed to make a title. You are supposed to write a title. Okay. I've given you 2 questions here. Determine the minimum number of jerseys Mrs. Jones should sell in order to cover the cost. This is how we're supposed to do it. We need at least 160 jerseys. Mrs. Jones wants to sell fewer jerseys to break even. What it means is that what action should she take? Should she increase the price or decrease the price? Meaning she wants to sell less so that she can make more money. Should she increase the price or reduce the price? She has to increase the price. All right. Now, let's look at this point here. During the examinations, when you are given the graph paper, please remember that you are being asked to do the following. What is displayed on the horizontal? What is displayed on the vertical? Then, for you to determine the intervals, the value of each one. Remember, I said to you already, count the intervals or lines, excluding the 0 line. And then, like the example that we're using there, we have the 2,000. So the number of lines up to 2,000, we divide it by how many lines are there. And that is going to give us the value for each line. Once you can figure this one out, you will realize that you're going to get everything correct. All right. So the same procedure that you can follow on that money side, you can do the same thing on the number of items side. Again, you use a ruler to help you to read the values. It's very simple like that. So now I have given you a question where you have to go home and try it out. I keep on saying, practice makes perfect. If you don't practice, do not expect to be better at it. I know you will work hard and things are going to be fine. So I am leaving this with you here, and I thank you so much for spending all this time with me. Hope to see you next time soon. Bye-bye.